Greetings metalheads, welcome to another edition of the Friday 13th YouTube channel. Today you're going to be watching an exclusive interview with a new band who are signed to Metal Blade Records. The band are called A to Z. Now this band features former Fates Warning drummer Mark Zonder, along with current vocalist Ray Alder. Now the band also features Philip Bjorn on bass guitar, who's been with Steve Vai and Warlord. On guitar we have Dupe Volters, also with Lalou, and also Vivian Lalou from the band Lalou. So please check out this awesome album. It's out on the 12th of August on Metal Blade. Enjoy the interview, folks, and please share on Twitter, Instagram and any other social media sites. Thanks for watching, folks. Be safe, stay metal. So Mark, welcome to Friday 13th YouTube channel. I hope you're well.
Absolutely, and you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Last time we met was 2010 at Bang Your Head Festival in Germany.
Oh yeah,
Some time ago.
time flies.
All right, well, thank you for doing this interview, Matt. So I'm going to ask you some warm-up questions first. The first question I'm going to ask you is, as a drummer, which drummers inspired you to become a drummer?
None really inspired me to become a drummer. My early memories when I was like about 6 years old, I was in the garage with my mom's wooden spoons, hitting these little kitty suitcases we had. You know, when you're young, 6 and 7 years old, it's not so, I'm not really dialed into Tommy Aldridge or Cozy Powell or whatever at that age. At that age, when I just started, I don't know, I just had like a natural thing to it. Had the lessons, played in the school bands, back then they actually had music lessons in the school. So I would take, drum lessons at school. But, my big influence, it always kind of goes back to one guy that kind of got me launched in a certain direction. That was Ensley Dunbar.
Oh,
and
okay.
Those are the first three Journey records. I lived in San Jose, which is close to San Francisco. They were a Bay Area band. We used to go see them all the time in small little clubs. And, first guy that I ever saw inverted China, first guy that I ever saw play traditional grip and play like rock, like not jazz, but rock. And also the first guy that I ever saw that had like stars and moons painted on his drum set. And we used to sit like 20 feet away. And I just loved his technique. He was a trained player, obviously. And, the left foot and the hi-hat was a big thing to me, incorporating all four limbs. I used to sit at home with the record player and put the needle back and try to listen to what he was doing and try to steal the ideas. But, he was a big guy that I stole, a lot of stuff from.
Okay, and can you remember your first drum kit?
Oh, absolutely. This one will blow a lot of people's minds. 7 years old, I started. I was on a practice pad and a snare drum till I was 13. I didn't have my first real drum set till I was 13. It was a piece of crap. It was a Japanese or Taiwanese, the name of the brand was Stewart, Stewart. It had these really nasty, like almost like lids for coffee or lids for pots cymbals. Really, really bad, really bad. But no, that was my first kit. 13 years old, a Stewart, blue sparkle. No doubt, blue sparkle.
Do you wish you still kept it? Kind of.
No, God no, horrible. It was the type of kit where you went to tighten something and it just stripped off and fell off in your hands. You know what I mean? It was just no. It had that tom-tom bracket that went on your bass drum and it would never stay still, so the tom-tom would always be moving. And no matter how you tightened it, you could never get it tightened.
Yeah, I used to have a Premier Olympic kit, and I had the same thing with the tom. You tighten it up, and then the grip would just let loose, and it would just slide.
Yeah, the manufacturing back there, wasn't meant for anything heavy duty or hard hitting or or just constant wear and tear like it is today.
No, so what make are you playing now then, Mark? For those that don't know,
Pardon me?
what make of drums do you play now for the people out there?
Oh,
watching
DW.
This? Yeah.
Drum Workshop. It's been DW well, I've been with them for the hardware and stuff for like 25 years or a long time. I was with a company called GMS.
Yeah, I remember them because when I saw you with Dream Theater in London many years ago, you was playing that make.
Yeah, they're a couple guys, handmade drums out of New York, and the reason I switched to DW was two things. Number one, they couldn't really support any kind of touring, and I don't mean monetarily. I don't mean like you got to pay me. I mean like when we go here, are there going to be drums that I can get in different cities? And also DW is just so much more accessible Rob and Tony, I love those guys. And I talk to Tony all the time. He's the G in GMS, Tony Galino, and they kind of, not that, I'm not even sure if they're in business, but they got chewed up during COVID and everything, and they were like literally two, three, four guys making handmade drums. But DW is the obvious choice. I mean, DW is the same thing. It's all handmade. It's just such a bigger company that I can go play a gig somewhere and get the drums. All, like worldwide. They were also great when I was doing clinics in supporting me financially to go out and do the clinics, and they would send. DW would send like a little timbali that we'd give away, along with Zelgin would send the cymbal, and Vader would send sticks, and Remo would send heads. So you have that whole kind of thing going on. GMS just wasn't in that league, but it was it not drum wise and not sound wise, but just from a business point of view and how big the company was and what they were able to do for a drummer. So that was the switch.
Okay then, so can you remember the very first band you started playing drums with professionally? Was it before Warlord, or was Warlord the first band?
Well, it depends what your definition of professionally is, but I remember a band where I met Bill Samus. There's a band called Russian Roulette, and we would play a couple originals and covers, UFO, the Scorpions, Zeppelin, Thin Lizzy, those kind of covers. So Russian Roulette, I guess, would be the first. I think that's the first band that I actually recorded a demo with, per se. Like I really went into. I mean, by today's standard, not like a great studio, but it was a studio. Studio nonetheless. And
So,
so yeah, Russian Roulette would have probably been it.
so can we find Russian Roulette on YouTube?
Oh God, no, I don't think so.
It'd be nice to hear.
I I don't know. I don't know. I'm still in touch with one of the guitar players, Russ Costanza, and I don't know if he has any tapes. That would be an interesting conversation. That would
Yeah,
be,
but after YouTube it after this interview and see if I can see any, hear any of your
yeah.
music.
I don't know if he put anything up. I talked to both guitar players. Greg Turoff as well. And those guys are around, but I don't know if they have any. I don't have. I can guarantee you, I don't have anything. But I do remember we recorded someplace. You got to remember, man. You're talking what, 1977, 78. There were no iPhones. There were no, quickie ways to get a clip of a recording or something like that. So I don't know. That's an interesting question. I'm going to contact those guys and see if they have anything. But
Let me know. Be interesting to
I
know.
definitely will.
So, I mean, the Warlord, I mean, they were one of my favourite bands growing up. I love Cannons of Destruction. I remember taking that record to a high school and playing it in the full lesson, in front of a full English lesson. I just put the record on to play it from start to finish. It's just like one of my favourite albums of all time. I mean, Deliverers was your first record, wasn't it, that you did with Warlord?
Yes, that was that to me. That's the as much as I love everything, that is kind of just the pinnacle of Warlord right there. We've been, we just, it was 8 tracks. It was an $800 recording. We got lucky that a friend of a friend was an artist, and she did that album cover for us. That's an actual painting. We got very lucky. Well, it wasn't luck, but that record, it was 8 tracks. So it was 2 kick drums and a bass guitar put down to 1 track. It was, and truthfully, the engineer sat there all the sessions just smoking cocaine cigarettes the whole time. So he was ready to go, needless to say. But yeah, that kind of is it. It's raw, it's rough. First introduction to playing with a click track, which was kind of interesting on Child of the Damned. But no, that was great. And I'll never forget when that was done. Me and Bill came home, and we sat there, had a couple, sat about this far from the speakers just to hear it, as best we could. And it's like, yeah, that one was special. The rest of them are great and cool and everything, and a little bit more sophisticated. And the later ones, Bill was in Florida, I was either in New York or California, and you do it that way, and it's cool and it's great. But man, when we did Deliver Us, I mean, that was me and Bill in a warehouse, for basically years, just jamming and just playing. So that was kind of a great release to actually get it down on tape, and it kind of had the rawness and the inexperience. Obviously, you can hear stuff all over there, and this is a young band, you know. Um, but no, that's a special one, Deliver Us, without a doubt.
I mean, for me, the first song I heard by you guys was Aliens on the BBC radio show called the Friday Rock Show, and I was just like,
Okay.
who are these guys? These are awesome.
Yeah.
Rushed to the nearest record store and bought the record next day, and I just like I say, it's in the top 10 albums. It's like classic epic power metal.
No, absolutely. And Aliens was kind of like round two. When you started getting into Aliens and Lost in Lonely Days, the music was changing a little bit. I don't know if we got better. I don't know if we got more mature, but it was a little more sophisticated, I guess you could say. Um, but yeah, that's good stuff, and it's unfortunate that it never got to where it was, and it's kind of not that it's unfortunate, but it's interesting that that influenced so much that people don't even realize what it influenced.
Yeah,
That was, it can be summed up this way. When we were coming out, we were in LA. There's Rat, Motley Crue, Poison, all that happening. And that's what everybody was into, but we weren't doing that. We were doing something different. And so it kind of went under the radar. It never got the attention that it really deserved, just because it wasn't in fashion at the time. It might have been in fashion in England with the new wave of heavy metal and all that kind of stuff. And that's the whole reason we did that video. We sat there and went, okay, no one's going to put us on tour overseas. We can't go to Europe. No one's going to pay for that. So how do we reach those people to let them know that, hey, here's this band that they might be into? So we figured that's what the video would do, to show them, hey, there is a band. This is kind of where we're coming from. This is what we're trying to do. There's absolutely no budget whatsoever. And we just tried to represent the band the best we could.
yeah, I've got that DVD myself. I've had it for some
Yeah.
years. It's a really good. It's basically it's just like a live rehearsal, isn't it?
Yeah, but the funny part of it is that people don't realize, and I've never told the story too much, is we were doing everything ourselves. Everything. We built we built the staging ourselves. We did all that. Um, the way it really happened is we get there early in the morning to load in with all the technical problems and just all the problems and the stupid stuff that goes on. We only get to play the songs once. So that is a one take video. Yes, there's two angles, but we only got to play it down once. That's why you don't see the drums very much. The idea was to run it down and then run it down again with close-ups of everybody. But because of the when they basically threw us out of there, problems with the sound guy saying, "Hey, I'm not going to do this until I eat," and it's kind of like it was one take, all that work for one take, So
But it worked.
if you say so, I thought it was way ahead of its time because no one else was doing that. Too bad there wasn't YouTube back then. We would have been all over YouTube with that. But no, that was an interesting time.
So how many albums did you actually do with Warlord? Because you broke up and then you reformed later on, didn't you? How many albums did you do in total?
Well, it was Deliver Us, Cannons. You could call that. We didn't. It was live, but it wasn't live. That was the soundtrack for the thing. But Cannons, and then you got Rising Out of the Ashes, The Holy Empire. God, am I forgetting something?
Not.
I think that's it. Yeah, The Holy Empire, Rising Out of the Ashes. That was
So,
with Joachim.
so if you had to pick one album as a cult classic out of all those, which ones would
Oh,
it be?
Deliver Us. There's no question. It's Deliver Us. That's
Right.
just kind of like the beginning. If you look at all these other bands, like these great bands, it's always that first record that, that just kills everybody. I mean, Boston's first record, different bands. It's just like that first record is just so special, to me anyways.
So why did you break up then? Because obviously you went to join Fates Warning. Was that the reason?
No, that was way later. What happened is it was a classic situation of no singer, no money, nothing's happening. We're just constantly struggling. We couldn't get a break, and Bill just decided to, go off and do something else. It was that simple. Um,
I think he did about. I think he did that Lordian Guard, didn't he?
yeah,
After
he kind of went that way where he wasn't so dependent on a label. He wasn't dependent on a band because he was doing it all himself. I think he just got really burnt out. I think what happened with Bill was we had so many high expectations, and then it all just kind of fell flat, you know. And I think he just said, basically, you can't just keep doing this over and over and over again. So that's why he just kind of went off to do something else musically that he was in control of.
Yeah. So how upsetting was it for you when you found out of his death like a few years ago? It was quite of a shock to the metal community, wasn't it?
Oh, it wasn't a shock to me at all. I honestly thought for the last 10 years it was kind of like I was going to get that phone call. I knew it was coming. I knew he was in bad health. I knew there wasn't, I don't want to say a cure, but there wasn't a treatment for that health. It's not like he had something that could be fixed. He had, I mean, I remember back, 20 years old, he had a heart problem back then. And then over the last 10, 15 years, I think he had stomach issues, like gastro. That's why a lot of those gigs, we weren't sure if we were going to play him because he could barely stand up. He had so much pain with his stomach. And he tried all kinds of doctors and all kinds of different things. It was sad. It didn't shock me per se. It's not like someone in the prime of their life that's really healthy and everything's great and they drop dead. It's not like that. It was sad. I remember the last time I saw him was at the festival. I guess it's pronounced the Hanya Festival in Crete. And he was in really bad shape, very debilitated. We were kind of really wondering, him walking up that plank to get to the stage, is this going to be okay? Is he going to fall off the front of the stage? I mean, we didn't know. I mean, obviously he played like Bill. That's the funny part of it. He could be in complete pain and could barely stand up and tie his shoes, but prop him up there and put a guitar in his hand. He was fine. He was absolutely fine. So, but no, when I saw him last, he was, no, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. I would equate it to basically someone who was 20 or 30 years older than he actually was, as far as a physical, being able to move, and just, the pain that he was in. So, I mean, it's sad in that respect, but not unexpected.
Right then. So the next Fates Warning. How did you feel when you got the call to join Fates Warning?
Well, it's an interesting story because, I'd worked on a couple of their records with them as far as the drum tuning with Bill Matoyer. I think it was Spectre and Guardian, and they came to LA and they rehearsed in my place. And, I helped Steve with the tuning of his drums. Like I probably did like 50 records with Bill Matoyer, Cryptic Slaughter, Sentinel Beats, Bitch, what's the other one? Tourniquet, blah, blah, blah. A million bands. I used to do that for Bill, So Jim calls me up and says, hey, we're looking to go, we're looking to change drummers. Are you interested? And I told him very flat out, I'll be very honest with you that if it's the direction of No Exit, that kind of has that thrashy kind of feel to it. I go, I don't think I'm your guy. That's not really, number one, what I do. And more importantly, not what I'm into, at all. There's no, it's not really my gig, and he goes, no, we're trying to go in a different direction. So he sent me out, some songs, and I started working on them, and they were a different direction. It wasn't that kind of thing. And, it's almost like they tried to go over the top proggy, and over the top kind of crazy. Like when you listen to Part of the Machine, or Fate's Hands and stuff like that. It was almost pushing, as much as they pushed this way a little bit with the thrashy stuff, it was almost like pushing the other way really hard with the progressive stuff, and, they went through that whole thing of, they were having Steve cut demos and, it really wasn't going where they wanted it to go. And they decided to make a change, and I started working on the material, and we went back and forth, and the rest is history, as they say.
You did some fantastic albums with the band, didn't you? Which one would you say is your favourite that you recorded with the band?
From a musical point of view, or just the whole?
Both.
Okay. As far as it goes, I loved Parallels and working with Terry Brown and working with the drum tech Silka 2, being there in Toronto in Triumph Studio. It was getting to the recording part and doing that was lovely, and it was great. The lead up to that of writing all the material and getting stuck in Toronto, because Metal Blade, and we went there a lot earlier than we thought we were actually ready. So the time leading up to that was brutal. We were there for like 6 months or something like that with trying to write. But as far as the experience of recording a record, definitely Parallels. It's kind of like You're working with Terry Brown, and I wasn't so much in awe of Terry Brown for the fact that he worked with Rush and did things like that. He was just great to work with. Even if he had never done anything in his whole life, he was just great to work with. He's a great guy, funny, love the accent. He was just a great guy. He was like a musician's engineer, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So he was great. He was great. But when you really come down to it, like someone has to say, especially for prog people, it has to be a pleasant shade of gray. And there's a funny story behind that because when we started working on that, well, once we had it kind of down, I went to New Hampshire, Jim's house, because we had a lot of this sequence stuff that we had to program. It had to, these different sounds that I was using and, the thump, 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 and Bill Matoyer when he talks. And, like we had to program that. So when we went to record, it would be easy to do and it'd pop right up and everything would be great. I'll never forget spending 8 or 9 hours with Jim doing it. And you got to remember, man, this is way before computers. And this is way before backing up your hard drive and all that kind of stuff. I'm on this little sequencer. I got my little samplers. We get it all going, and we go to the dining room in this house, and I accidentally kicked the plug out of the wall,
Oh
and
no.
everything we did went in the toilet. I mean, it's a good thing we made notes. A good thing we kind of remembered what we did, but I'll never forget that. But as far as the recording of it, as far as playing it live that we used to do from top to bottom, that is kind of the pinnacle of prog playing riffs, just full on, great rock, you know, intricate without being like stupid, like to the point where no one can get it. But I would say that would be the favorite as far as just full on playing. Not to take anything away from Parallels at all, but that, Parallels was a little bit more, down the middle. I think A Pleasant Shade of Gray, especially the way it runs top to bottom, is really an accomplishment that I think went over a lot of people's heads.
It was
I don't
quite a heavy album, wasn't it? It was kind of like a concept album.
it kind of is, but it's so deep, it's heavy without being noisy and fast. It's heavy in groove, it's heavy in emotion, it's heavy in feel. We didn't have to play 100 miles an hour and turn it up super loud and play really fast to make it heavy. It was almost at times reminding me of Black Sabbath in a heavy way where it can just be this groove that's heavy, and it drives and it just pulses, So no, that was a great one.
What do you think about Perfect Symmetry? Because that's a really good album on par with Parallels, wasn't it? Same sort of.
Perfect Symmetry, it was my first time there. Um, Honestly, I mean, I think Through Different Eyes is heading in the right direction. Nothing Left to Say is great, but I think there's a couple songs on that are kind of all over the place. Just in my own opinion, as a songwriter and someone who likes to listen to music, as much as I dig Part of the Machine and everybody loves that, and it's so this and that. I mean, it's changing parts like every 4 bars, man. It's like unless you really have the time to sit down and listen to it and really absorb it, it's a tough listen a little bit in the respect of there's a lot going on. You have to pay attention. Um, there's a couple songs that I don't want to say they weren't rushed necessarily, but the band was brand new. Well, I mean, I was new to the band. Ray had only been there one album. I think when you get to like Parallels and start moving, there's a little bit more of a cohesiveness to it.
Yeah, I think
I'm
you
not
get
going
all
to
more
say,
relaxed within each other, don't you? Getting to know each other better.
yeah, exactly. And you kind of know where someone's going, where they're not going, and what to do and like what not to do. But Perfect Symmetry definitely has um, a looseness in a good way. Like it's kind of loose, We kind of shored things up a little bit when it came to Parallels and had a little bit more of direction of where we're going with the record. But I mean, nothing against Perfect Symmetry, but I wouldn't put that's just the beginning of when we start getting going, and then we were finding out, oh, this works really well. Okay, this one doesn't work, that kind of idea doesn't work well at all. So let's do something different. So, you know,
Okay, then so why did you leave? For those people that don't know, why did you actually leave Fate's Warning? What was the reason? Was it just
well,
musical differences?
here's the real reason that everybody can tell their own story. Been in the band 15 years. Did the highs, did the lows. Saw grunge come in and kill the band. After Parallels. For the last few years, we were kind of just doing the same thing over and over and over again. I was older than everybody else. I was more established as far as, businesses and houses. And I was just older. Let's just put it that way. I came from a little bit different of a school, I guess you could say. And it just kind of got to that point, and I'm getting married and we're planning to have kids. And I just didn't think it was being fair to myself, the band, my wife or the kids to do this thing at a drop of a hat just to go out on tour to play in front of, 120 people in the middle of Albuquerque when it's freezing cold. Um, it's very business oriented in the respect of, okay, what do I have to give up and what am I getting in return? Okay. Obviously, Fate's Warning has never been about the money for me. Okay. It was always about just the enjoyment. But we were kind of heading on a decline. Things were kind of just grinding, and it's tough, when you want to do things musically. Also, as a band, since there was not a lot of money, it would be the thing like we'd be not doing anything for a while. I mean, you get a phone call saying, hey, in 2 weeks, we're going out on tour. And it's like, if you're 19 years old and you have no responsibilities, that's great. No problem. But when you're older and whether you're married or not, or you run businesses and have responsibilities, it's kind of hard to do. It's very taxing. If you said, hey, we're going to go out and open for the Scorpions, okay, that's a different story. I'll make it work. People don't like to talk about it, but the bottom line is musicians want to be successful. Well, I mean, unless you want to just stay in the basement, that's cool. Hey, whatever you want to do is fine. But I always wanted to push it to the next level and do anything to get it there. So I don't think there's anything wrong with anybody saying, especially like with A through Z, hey, this is what we want to do. We're looking to appeal to mass people. We're not just looking to appeal to these people and be their new favorite band. No, the idea is to appeal to the masses. Would you rather play an 80-seat club or a stadium? Would you rather have $20 for your next album budget or 200,000? It's just business. That's all it is. It's just business. At this point in the game, it's business. So the Fates Warning thing, and I had a talk with Jim. I said, hey, here, this is where I'm coming from. Very mature, very adult. Everybody was fine. I said, I'd love to keep this going. I know I wouldn't be part of the band. You can pay me whatever you want, or you don't have to pay me at all, whatever. We can work it out. But I'd like to continue to record and write and do that. And then, if you wanted to, you could use a different drummer for live. Bands do that all the time. But Jim didn't want to do that. He wanted to have the guy in the band that played in the band and also did the touring. So I said, okay, well, I'm sorry. I can't commit to that kind of touring. And that was it. So obviously there's no hard feelings. He asked me to play, on the Arch Matthäus, which I played 2 songs on. Obviously I called Ray and he picked up the phone. So, I mean, there was no hard feelings. There was nothing like crazy happened where, someone got pissed off or whatever. It's just a life decision. Like I said, it was 15 years. I gave it everything I had. I gave everything to it. And it was just kind of that point where I knew I couldn't keep going just doing that repetitively. So I made a change.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing those albums, Mark, because they're all fantastic albums. So thanks.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So we're going to time out in 5 minutes' time. So I'm going to ask you, can we log back in it after 5 minutes is up, and we can carry on the interview? So we'll carry on for now, and then we'll carry on afterwards. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, no problem.
So after Fate's Warning, did you was it Slaviour was your next project with Greg from Seven Sign? Was that the next thing you did?
Yeah, that was the next tech. Well, let me think about this. I did a lot of I've done hundreds and hundreds of recordings. Some big bands, some little bands, some artists. I mean, all the way from commercial to country rock. I mean, to heavy metal to whatever. I think that was it, and that's kind of the exact same game plan, the same theory that's used behind A through Z. Started with the drum ideas, have someone write with you, and develop it from there, and there was Wayne Finley, and he was great at taking my drum parts and we'd start writing just like Vivian is. And it kind of went from there, because what I was doing is I have hundreds and hundreds of drum ideas. Actually, since we turned the record in November of last year, and since November to now, I have like 122 different ideas that I floated by Viv to start writing for the second record, which we're doing. But so I have all these ideas, and it's really hard to take that idea and shove it into somebody else's part that might not match up exactly. And I know when you find the right guy, and not everybody can do this. Viv's one, and Wayne Finley was another that can take like they say, they go, okay, we take your loop, and it's like a very cool drum machine. And then we just start playing to it, and we start thinking. They don't have to think, hey, what's the rhythm's going to be like? Hey, what's the drum part? It's half the work is done, and they could just be creative, like close your eyes and just start playing to this groove. So it's worked out extremely well with Viv, needless to say.
So, talking about the Slaviour machine then, Mark, the Slaviour album that you did. I mean, you met up with Greg. What did you think of Seventh Sign? Because I thought them two albums were fantastic.
Honestly, I've never really sat down and listened to them. I know Greg from the very, very, very beginning. I'm not even sure how I got to him. I'm not even sure how I made in contact with him. Became a really, really good friend. We were actually better friends in real life. I'm not going to say that we weren't bad bandmates at all. I'm just saying our friendship was just as important as band stuff. We confided in each other, and he had a child after I already had my kid, so he's always asking me questions, and I'd be going, I don't know. I don't know. But great guy. Just absolutely, typical, not your typical lead singer. Definitely not. Super guy. Just a super great guy. Loved what he was doing. He turned back in those first couple songs, and I thought, oh, man, we really got something here. And I thought he was great. There's no reason that song Dove shouldn't have been a big hit.
Yeah.
I remember Inside Out coming to me after the record was done. The head A&R guy, hey, man, your record's fantastic. This is a great song, but we don't know what to do with it.
Wow.
And it's very funny because that same label, when we shopped A through Z, told me flat out, sorry, man, it's too AOR, too commercial. I'm like, okay. I thought that's what everybody wanted. I thought that's what sells records.
I mean, when I had Greg's old band, it reminded me of Fate's Warning meets Dokken.
Well, Greg was highly influenced by Ray.
Yeah, you could tell that. He looked like his little brother.
A little bit, but Greg had other stuff, man. Greg was a full-blown artist, man. He had other stuff going on just besides, a Ray clone. But his thing though, he was just he was just really good. That's all I can say. He was just really good. That one came as a shock. Now that one's the one that just, that was a shock. Here's a guy, prime of life. We've been talking, we go back and forth, and all of a sudden I hear that, he's killed in a motorcycle accident.
Yeah, it was a shame for me because I was thinking this guy's got an amazing voice, and he's what they're going to do now? What's going to happen?
Yeah, no, amazing voice, amazing guy. But yeah, no, love that record. We recorded a bunch of other stuff. We didn't have any problems writing stuff. It was just kind of that label thing. We don't know what to do with this right now. Okay, great. Then what are you supposed to do? So.
Because he was involved with another band, weren't they? Last Tribes, I think they were called, or Two Tribes, I think, is Latin American, weren't they?
Well, he was doing a few things with Roy Z. He was doing a thing with George Lynch where, he used some stuff. I sat down with George one time and tried to write a couple things, and it was I think it was a soundtrack to a movie, something about shadows, something. I don't remember. I don't remember what was going on, but yeah, he that was kind of where he was at. He was a great artist with clay and painting and sculpturing as well. Really amazing.
So, Matt, we're talking about Slaviour. How many songs did you actually record after the first album? And can you record them and put them out so people can listen to what we did before Greg's death?
Well, there's the 4 that we actually did to a demo state that we were using to turn into the label, and those are out on the internet. They're out all over the place. Okay. But after that, there was probably about another 12 songs that we kind of had ideas working out and stuff. And Greg had never finished them. We just never got to that point because we're basically where we were at was those 4 songs were to go to the label to get the budget for the next record. How they make you do that. So we did that, and then it all just kind of came apart. I think Wayne was going on tour with Schenker for 6 months or something, something kind of ridiculous that would have obviously, put the band to a grinding halt. So now, everything's out that's out. Those other four songs are definitely out there. Um, but that's all there is for Slaviour, unfortunately. It's
And
funny how all these bands I play in, guys are dying. It's kind of a weird one. You know.
yeah, and it's a shame. Like you said earlier on, that the record company wasn't sure about how the album was. I mean, when I first heard the Slaviour album, I kind of it took me a bit longer to get into the music because it was different from what I heard before from you.
No, absolutely. We were trying that. We weren't trying to be Fate's Warning, just like A through Z is not trying to be Fate's Warning.
Right.
So, it's kind of like people have to kind of get over it. And that's why, as much as people have said, some negative things, when we did this, I wanted to put it out there, plain and simple. This is what we're trying to do. We're selling hot dogs here. We're not selling salads. Okay. So if you want a salad, go over there. We're
Yeah.
selling hot dogs. Don't come to me just because I used to sell salads. Okay. You know, just wanted to make it really, because I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want, wow, doesn't sound like Fate's Warning. Well, we're not trying to sound like Fate's Warning. And
Obviously.
the funniest part is when I hear, well, yeah, I hear Fate's Warning like influence. I go, well, let's think about this. You got the singer that was there for 30 years or close to 30 years. You got the drummer that was there that was in a very instrumental changing point of the band for 15 years. Well, yeah, I think there's going to be maybe one or two things that pop up, but the guitar player, keyboard player, and bass player have no idea, of Fate's Warning at all. So that's what's kind of interesting about that. No idea at all.
So I mean, after you've done, you've done other records. I didn't even know you did like Dramatic. Is it Dramamatic?
Dramatic,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I don't even know anything about this band. I mean, what sort of stuff is that?
Honestly, like I said, I've done hundreds and hundreds of recordings for people. My brain just isn't that good to remember everything.
Yeah.
It's I've known Diego for a long time, really good guy. Him and Dennis, they sent me a lot of work, but call me a studio musician. I'm here to do the job for you. I'll do it the best I can. Doesn't mean I'm joining your band. Doesn't mean I'm going out on tour with you. It is what it is, and we're good friends. So, I mean, there's no problem with that, but there's a lot of, I mean, seriously, hundreds. I mean, I did the 10 record, the Spirits of Fire stuff was all project based from Frontiers, but there's a million people, self-produced kind of records that everybody this day and age can put out themselves, that I've been on. I mean, the list just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about the Spirits of Fire because my friend Steve plays bass on the albums.
Yeah, he's a horrible bass player.
Really?
I actually dig hanging with him, and we have a interesting, good. It's great, kind of a email kind of relationship because we don't live in the same place. We're not in the same band. We're not on the same tour. But I think we get each other very well. We're totally different people, but the sense of humor, and the understanding of how the business works is very similar. No, he's a great guy. When we did the first videos for the first Spirits of Fire with Ripper and stuff and Chris, it was just fun hanging out with all those guys.
Yeah, and I know Tim as well. I've known Tim for many years.
Yeah, they're all very cool. And Chris Caffrey is just as cool and funny and goofy as everybody else. So it was good. It's funny because it's a bunch of like older dudes that have been there and done that. So there was none of this. Well, I got to have more camera time, and wait a minute, where's the makeup? You know what I mean? It's not like when you were younger. I kind of always said, too bad. Everybody should wait till they're 40 before they get in a band. Because then you have a different attitude about the whole thing.
Yeah,
but,
I'm seeing Steve on Sunday actually at Bloodstock Festival, so I'll tell him I said hey.
Oh no, absolutely, no, absolutely, great guy.
Yeah, so I mean, are you doing another album for this project? Are you going to be doing for Spirits of Fire? Are you doing anything else for the future?
It's my whole thing is A through Z. I'm doing everything for that. I mean, I'm doing a million interviews. We're getting all these different videos lined up. We're trying to, take $5 and stretch it as much as we can. We were very fortunate to have a small video budget where most bands would do one video. We did three, and then we have a few more coming after that as well, because I think it's very important. People seem to listen to music today with their eyes, and that's fine. Again, it's like, okay, how do we play the game? How do we get it to them? So with the videos, they'll start hearing songs, and what the kind of thought is, if someone hears a couple songs, like, oh yeah, it's kind of cool, whatever, okay. But then when they start hearing song 3, 4, and 5 and go, wait a minute, this is really good, then I'll have to go back and buy it. But if you didn't put those videos out, where would they hear it? They wouldn't, and they would just move on. So we're just trying to do everything that we possibly can to get it out there. I get contacted all the time to record songs for people, which I can squeeze in, and I can do it. The studio's here in the house and everything's fine. But no, the main focus, I'm not looking for other bands. I mean, if Richie Blackmore called, I take the call. But no, this is what I'm doing. And we're going to put all the effort into this and see where we go with it.
Right then, so now we're going to talk about, so the name is A to Z, Z is it? A to Z?
Yeah, A through Z, A to Z, A Z, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I was trying to definition the name. I was like, is it A to Z, A dash Z? It's like, oh my god, what's the band called? Oh.
I mean, technically it's called A through Z, but I think it's morphed into different things. It's more about an identifiable logo. It's more about an identifiable album cover. A through Z. If someone says A through Z, if someone says A to Z, same thing. Hey, we got two names.
Yeah. So is it a band or a project?
Oh, it's absolutely a band. There's no question. As long as I'm driving the bus, and we're moving it forward. There's nothing going on, but hey, bands change members. I mean, come on, Survivor had a hit song with Eye of the Tiger, and they changed vocalists. Tell me that's not got to be like having some balls there to do that one. It worked out well for them, obviously, but I'm just saying, this is my idea from the beginning. Viv is great. He's totally on board. Viv is much more than a keyboard player. He's actually more of a composer than a keyboard player. Not saying that he's not a keyboard player, but him and I, there's just a certain undeniable chemistry, even after 6, 7, 8 months of not really writing, because we were putting the album together and doing all these different things. I throw him a couple ideas, and he threw me a couple of his ideas back, and it's right back to the excitement as it was from the very beginning.
Right then, so when did you actually get this band together then? When did the ideas actually come together? What year?
Well, it was the beginning of COVID, I think, and it had nothing to do with the fact that COVID hit. I had this idea for a long time, and I've been looking for different people, and I could give you a list of people that I've tried this with, and it just doesn't go anywhere. I called Matt Guillory because he was one of them, and he basically said he was too busy, which in the music business is code for you don't have enough money for me, is what it really means. And he turned me on to Viv, and just kind of went from there, and I talked to him on the phone, sent him back and forth some of the ideas. He wrote to it. First song that he did was Rise Again, and I knew right then that we had something very special.
Okay then, because I was looking at your biography and it said you went through like 20 different singers or something before you decided to pick Ray. Is that correct?
It's not that we decided to pick Ray. The way the singer thing worked is when it first started, I had no idea what Fates Warning was doing. It's none of my business. I don't wake up every morning and go check. I've known Ray for a long time. We used to hang out all the time in LA. We were both into cars. We both used to hang out, at my studio. Never any problems. And, we were looking for other people. I wanted, it's like, hey, I talked to Phil Ahart with Kansas and asked him, hey, man, I know you replaced your singer. Who came in second? Who's the third choice? Because, they're all going to be really good. And just wasn't able to find anybody who got it. I would sit and explain very, very, very distinctly what we're looking for. The style, big hook, think Journey Separate Ways, think Starship Jane, think, hit song, 38 Special, whatever, but a hit song, big chorus. And guys would be turning in stuff like that. It was like Operation Mindcrime Part 2, with these voices and stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? It got to the point where I just kind of went, okay, I haven't talked to Ray in a long time. Don't have a singer. I know he's into this kind of stuff because we talked about it early on. But also the thing about Ray that really excited me compared to a lot of other singers is the fact that he sings in the pocket. A lot of singers don't sing in the pocket. A lot of singers are operatic pomposity and they're up here, all that kind of crap. They're not in the pocket. Rock and roll, R&B, funk, it's in the pocket. It's got a groove. Someone's got to be able to hear a vocal and groove with that as much as they're going to groove with the drums. And I knew he was that kind of singer just from playing with him. Even as wacky as the Fates Warning stuff, is and was, when I was playing the drums, he would always seem to find that pocket, find where the kick and snare was and sing his lines in between that. I just called him and he picked up the phone and we started chatting. Said, okay, I don't know. You send it to me. I'll see. Let me see what it's like. And here we are. you know.
So what did you think of his solo album he put out on Inside Out? Because I thought that was a pretty good album.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't listen to a lot of other people's music, to be honest with you. I just really don't. I'm not that guy looking for the new big thing. I'm more concerned about what I'm doing. I'm more focused on that. I'm more focused on my creativity and the 106 different drum patterns that I'm recording to hopefully spark someone's interest to make a better hit song. Just not a lot of time to sit around and listen to that. I don't even listen to my own stuff. I don't go back and listen to parallels or anything like that. I mean, I just kind of do what I do.
Yeah.
So no, I know he's in the middle of doing another one right now. We talked about it and stuff, and so
That's
he's
cool.
doing his thing.
So what about the bass player Phil? Because obviously he was with Steve I, and he's also been with you at Warlord. So is that the reason why you picked him, or was there any other bass players you were looking at the time of forming the
Oh
band?
God, no! If Mark's playing, Philip's playing. That's all there is to it. There's no question. I mean, here's a guy that funny story with Slaviour. We're looking for a bass player because Wayne was playing the bass, and talking to my buddy, he goes, "Oh, check this guy out, Philip Bino. I used to play with him somewhere, whatever." I go to his website, and here's this dude sitting there playing a cello, and I say to myself, "There is no." And then I'm looking down his credits, like The Tonight Show, and all these really heavy duty things. I go, "There's no way in hell this guy's playing with it. There's just no way." I mean, fast forward maybe 15 years or whatever, and he's probably my best friend. One of the few people that I'd leave my kids' car keys and checkbook with and not worry about it. We're not even talking about his bass playing. We're just talking about him as a human being. He has stuff turned in before you even ask him for it. The consummate professional. I can't get any more professional than Philip Bino. Never an excuse, never late. He's in a foreign country. He's cutting me little video clips that we need. Okay. Talk about his bass playing. There's a lot of other dudes out there. And when I think bass, I think Philip. When I think treble, I think of a lot of other bass players. Philip is bass. One of the few guys that I know that can be on half a stage by himself, not move, and demand all the attention going right to him. I wish I had 4 other guys that were like him.
Yeah, because it was really good in Ring of Fire as well, wasn't it, with Tony McAlpine, and that was a good band as well, what
Yeah,
you did.
yeah. No, Philip's just most humble guy. On this record, I had to keep saying to him, dude, come out, play whatever you want all over the place. I want to hear all over the place. Don't just sit there and and groove it down. Play all over the place. I want the bass to be just as much as important instrument that people go, oh damn, listen to that, as compared to the guitar, drums, and keyboards. And if you listen to like the beginning of the Machine Gunner, and when we're doing that thing in the beginning, and he starts playing the high notes and shit like that, I mean, I'll never forget exactly where I was sitting, and the look on my face when I heard that when he sent it back for the first time. And I said, that's what I'm talking about. That's what we're looking for.
It's what you said about all these like really technical, weird bass playing. Said do what you need to do. So you ever think of using Steve from Testament, because he's a bit of a freaky bass player, isn't he? He goes all over the place as well.
He would have been second choice. Also there's I'll get back to Steve in a minute. There's another guy named Vince Dennis. I don't know if you know who he is.
No, I'm not sure.
He plays with Body Count.
All right, yeah, I know Vince. Steel Prophet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
I've known Vince for 35 years. Another guy that I leave my keys, my kids, and my checkbook with. Great guy. I've known him for years. Just a great guy. Fucking great bass player. He would have. Yeah, it's not about at this point bass players that can play. We're all at the point we can play. It's more about how is it going to work live.
Personality as well. Personality would have.
Yeah, exactly. But Steve would have been great. He's great. There's no question about it. But also, you're talking about a dude that's like super busy, and there's just an allegiance that I have with Philip. It's like, it's like a twin brother kind of thing. There's a certain thing that I don't know. It just is. But no, Steve would be up there with and Vince. The same thing. Like like when guys 35 years. But Steve was great. Steve would be right there. That would be about the three. I think I kind of run out of bass players after that. Probably Joey Vera would be next. As far as people that I know, but I don't need to go out and find somebody like that. That's a great bass player per se.
Right.
So,
So
but no.
the keyboard player Vivian, I've just interviewed Vivian earlier this year for his band Lalu, which I think are a fantastic band as well. But meeting up with him and Duke, because he's also in Lalu, how did you hook up with these guys?
Well, like I said, Matt Guillory turned me on to Viv. So me and Viv started writing these songs. We put 5, 6 songs together. The thing that's cool about Viv is when he's writing his keyboards, he's playing guitar on the keyboards as well. So it's not like just a guy turning back piano parts. We're talking about, okay, the guitar can go here, and Viv's hearing the guitar, and he's got a great John Sykes sound going on. But so we're writing, but then when it got down to the point of you need a guitar player and you want to have like the extra embellishments that a guitar player would add, Vivian just said, "Hey, I played with this guy for 20 years." I mean, it's kind of the same thing I think with me and Philip. I think it's the same thing. Jupe is Vivian's guy per se, and they played together a long time. So I brought him in, and he added his flavor to it and copied Viv's parts, did it his style. He came in, and the same with Viv, with a couple riffs of their own or songs that they kind of had, and we put those together as well. So it was all of us kind of writing together per se, I guess you could say. Everybody had their input. I can't remember one time where someone said, that part sucks, don't play that, or oh, the lead's too quick or too fast. It just kind of rolled, and everybody kind of had that same direction of where we are going as far as song oriented, vocals, making parts, verses and choruses and bridge, not going into 20-minute, jams, no blues jams, none of that kind of stuff. It was very focused. And I think that's what you hear on the record when you listen to those 11 songs. Those are 11 very unique songs compared to each other. There's nothing that even sounds remotely, close to each other. And we were very conscious of that, But it rolled. It's not like we wrote 20 songs and picked the 11. We basically had those 11. And I mean, there's a couple other ideas that we were still playing around with, but when we had to narrow it down, those were the 11. So, it's definitely a group writing process.
That's good. So Duke was the only guitar player you had because of Vivian's recommendation.
Yeah. I mean, put it this way. When I first heard what he did, I thought to myself, why do you need anybody else? He plays with, I'm not a big shredder guy, but there's a time and a place for a little bit. He can do that without a problem. And he does it melodically. The tasty interludes between the vocals with kind of the question and the answer. He kind of reminds me basically of a modern day Neil Sean, from Journey, kind of that can play whatever you want, whenever you want, but whatever they're playing, it fits with what's happening. There's never one of those ones you go, I don't understand what you're trying to do here. It's like everything is melodic. It's right in there. It's sing along kind of stuff. And he's great. I mean, he got it. He knew exactly what was going. So, and I wasn't going to do this thing on this record and I know a lot of bands do it because they try to sell records. Hey, let me go get 6 different guitar players and we can put their names on the front of the record so people will buy it. This is a band. If people aren't going to buy it for the 5 dudes in the band, then they ain't going to buy it. You know what I mean? Then you're fishing. Then you're just chasing. Okay, who's the new hot guy? Let me go see why? That just screams project.
I mean, to me, if you did that live, you could have problems. You could have really attitudes with musicians live, and it's not going to work. Like you say, you've got 5 musicians here. Well, you're not fishing for like real big names.
Yeah, but the truth is, those guys, you pay them, they come in and they bang out what they need to bang out, and then they're out the door. I mean, that's how it's done these days. It's done on a million different records, and that's why this was a band. And I wanted to find, if Viv would have brought Jupe in and it wasn't working, then we would have looked for another guitar player. But we wouldn't have kept Jupe at the same time. There's no point. You need one guitar player, one keyboard, but that's all you need. We're not looking for another drummer. It's like we just need the one. So, but it was so easy. I thought to myself, oh, okay, this is way too easy. This is perfect. The The vocal thing, I thought, okay, here we go again. It's going to be the story of my career. Can't find a vocalist, but that worked itself out. And no, it's definitely there. What I've read and what everybody says is, as much as a lot of us haven't even met each other, and we're in different parts of the world. It sounds like a band. It sounds like guys having fun, and it sounds like guys that are connected to each other musically. I've heard it said more than once that this needs to continue with this lineup. So
Right then, so the album. How long did it take, Mark, to record? Because you recorded the album yourself, didn't you? You produced it.
well, the drums and bass were done here. Everybody else did their stuff. We came up with the demos. We said, okay, this is what we're doing. I went in and cut my drums. I think I cut them all in a couple of weeks. I didn't rush. There was no reason to rush. I spent a lot of time with an engineer getting the sounds because I thought that was super important. Another thing that was really important was to have an amazing mix. You can go through the trouble of all this and you can have the next hit songs, but if the first reaction is, wow, that kind of sounds like a demo, that doesn't really sound like a big time thing. The slogan behind this band from the beginning was, bigger, faster, and stronger. You got to come out big. I don't want to hear, oh yeah, their second record should be better, or maybe the sound quality will get better. At this point in the game, you got to come out like $1 million band. I put my money where my mouth was. I believed in this. Was doing everything I possibly could to take it to the next level, and just doing everything that we can. So the drums took maybe 2 weeks. Philip took 2 days or whatever when he came out here. We did it. He was sitting back there. And then Viv does his stuff, and Juke did his stuff, and Robbie Wyckoff, who I brought in to sing a lot of the background stuff that he created. I really was digging that 70s and 80s thing where the bands would bring in other singers just to have different sound behind, their songs. And it's nothing to take away from Ray. I knew this was going on, but when I talked to Phil Ahart again from Kansas, when he recommended guys and I talked to these guys, they're like, yeah, I sang on this Kansas album and that Kansas album. I'm like, well, wait a minute. What do you mean you sang on that record? Steve Walsh sang on that record. And I went to look at it and the guy's name's listed, So they bring in 3 or 4 guys with different sounding voices to make those backgrounds, because Ray could sing all the parts, but it'll kind of sound, it won't have the same flavor to it. So basically, Robbie took the songs, created background vocal parts, sent me 12 different tracks of, different things. Like if you listen to Rise Again, a lot of the times he was just harmonizing with Ray, but it made it so much thicker than Ray harmonizing with himself because it was a different kind of voice. So we were very concerned about the production in that mode. I thought that was something that not many bands are doing these days. They're just not doing that. I don't know if they don't have the talent, they don't have the time and the energy and the money in a studio to do that, because it takes time. It takes time to create those parts and really nail them vocally wise. But I thought that was a great thing that we have going for this band is, implementing that background vocal structure that was, so prevalent in the 70s and 80s.
Okay then, so I'm going to ask you about the album cover. It's a very interesting cover. It's got this zebra with an apple in its mouth. Explain the concept.
Well, let me ask you a question. On all the people that you interview, how many times do you really spend talking about their album cover?
Not very. I always ask the artist about the album covers every time I interview somebody. So
okay,
but yours is kind of interesting because I'm like looking at it and thinking, all right, there's a zebra with an apple, A to Z. I don't quite. Oh, actually, apple to zebra. Yeah.
You know who did that, right?
No.
You don't know the artist?
No.
Take a guess.
Is it the guy who did prog art?
Hugh Syme.
All
the Rush covers.
Wow.
Did Two Fates Warning covers, Megadeth. I mean, he's done a million of them. He's done a zillion of them. When it came time looking for an artist, I had them all send me stuff. Not Hugh, but all the ones that you know what I mean. All the ones that are doing everybody else's work. Definitely guys you would know. And I was just going, really? It was enough with the serpents, enough with the Vikings, enough with the big snake, enough with the wandering through the fucking desert, and enough. It's like everybody's stuck in that mentality. From the beginning, we weren't doing that, okay? I didn't know what it was going to be, but it wasn't going to be that. So again, I said, haven't talked to Hugh in a long time. pick up the phone, call him. We chit chat about his home improvement project, my kids. He says, "Oh, what are you doing musically?" And I said, "Oh, I'm doing this." And oh, what's the name? So A through Z. He goes, "Okay, man, let's talk in a bit. We'll talk soon, Mark." Didn't talk about the deal. I didn't ask him, "Could you do something?" 20 minutes later, he sends me the album cover. Just sends it over, and it kind of went from there. The fact that like everybody said when they, Philip Bino said it best. He goes, "I would buy that T-shirt even if there wasn't a band." He goes, "That image is so vibrant and so iconic that it just jumps off the page." And that's what you want. That's what we wanted. Hugh told me that when he did Signals, the dog pissing on the fire hydrant for Rush, he goes, they didn't get it. When they got it, they were like, "We don't get it." And that turned out to be the most successful album cover that Hugh's ever done. I knew when I saw that this is it, man. This is it. When you look at that album cover, you don't get any idea of really what the band is. Is it a prog band? Is it a rock band? Is it a jazz band? You don't know. That was perfect. That's why there's no album name on it. I didn't want to call it Far Side of the Horizon, and then everybody's going, "Oh yeah, prog band."
Keep everyone guessing, basically.
It's not a guessing. It was more of I didn't want people to dismiss it automatically. Ah, Christ, it's just going to be another Fates Warning ripoff. I'm not even going to bother. You know how people perceive stuff like that, and then they cancel it out. I didn't want to get into that. Just to me, when I saw that, I almost fell off my chair. I thought it was amazing. Now, did you have all the rest of the artwork or no?
No, I just got a digital download at the moment.
Oh, okay. The rest of the artwork it's Hugh Syme. Let me just leave it there. It's amazing. You'll see the artwork in the videos. You'll see it in a live concert. You'll see it on T-shirts. There's about 9 or 10 pieces of art that are just Hugh Syme, man. I don't know what else to say. It's amazing. It's amazing. And again, it goes along with what I was talking about. Yes, we could have used somebody else's album cover. And people say, "Well, do you really sell albums by album covers? Does it really matter? Is it worth the money that you spent?" Absolutely. Absolutely. Just the fact that you and I are talking about it and that it is Hugh Syme, and when people see the entire package, they know what we're not screwing around. It's not, "Hey, why don't you go to our website and look at our pictures?" If I'm going to sell you steak, it better be good steak. If I'm going to ask you to throw down good money to buy something, I just can't give you a shitty hamburger. I got to give you everything, and not, album. You're sitting there, you're looking at everything, all the artwork. You got everything there. That's why we're doing all these videos. It's not supposed to be, okay, let's make a couple bucks and then move on. And like, okay, let's get the record advance and just keep spitting little records out. The object's to really give people what they want. So they keep coming back.
Right. So the deal with Metal Blade Records, is that the only record label you approached for the album?
Oh no. We shopped them all. We had 3 songs. We had the EPK, where I'm sitting there talking and the other guys talk or do whatever they do, like the little thing. Lot of really bad deals. There's a couple that would tie me up till I'm like 94 years old. Wow. There's Inside Out, 2 AOR, 2 commercial. That was kind of disappointing because I kind of like that label, but okay. And Metal Blade. We went to Metal Blade. There was others too, but it was a combination of the best offer, the best terms, small video budget, which was great. But just the fact that if I had a problem, I could pick up the phone and call Brian, as compared to with all these other labels, you hear horror stories. I mean, Viv will tell you, yeah, I haven't heard from the label in 6 months. They don't return my call. It's different. I've known Tracy and Brian for 30, 40 years. I think Metal Massacre 2 is coming up on 40 years. When Warlord was on there with Lucifer's Hammer. Just the fact that they're 5 miles from my house if I really needed to go over there, which I don't need to go over there, but it's that whole thing of they might say no to whatever I'm asking, but that's okay. At least I'm getting an answer from them. And this day and age, you talk to 20 bands and they'll all tell you, most of them, the horror stories with their label. It's like when the label's done, they're done, and they don't need to call back anymore. As compared to with and I've always known Brian to be straight up and fair. They promise a dime, you will get your dime.
Right.
So I knew there was not going to be any kind of goofy shenanigans or going out of business or stupid stuff, like that. So it was when it came around and the offer was good. It was kind of it made perfect sense, and there was no. It was obvious. It was just very obvious. It was everything that we wanted.
Right then. So the songs on the album, which ones are your favourite songs, Mark, on the album, and why? Is there any favourite songs you particularly like?
Honestly, I love them all. I know that sounds really bad.
No, I like them all as well. I'm giving the album 5 out of 5. I mean, it's yes, it does have Fates Warning. We can't deny that, but it's also got a bit of Lalo in it. That's what I like about it. You get the Lalo Fates Warning. It really does gel. It's fantastic put together.
I think that I'm not sure, honestly. Definitely Viv because he's all over it. But I don't get the Fates Warning thing so
I
much
think it's the
because
voice. I think you just can't get away from Ray's, obviously with Fates
okay, well
Warning.
then you okay if that's the case. But I'm thinking to myself, man, Viv is a completely. I mean, Jupe is a completely different player than Jim and whoever else
Oh
they
yeah,
had.
definitely,
I mean,
definitely.
just night and day. The other thing that I think is very different, as long as we're talking about that Fates Warning thing, is Fates Warning is kind of dark and gloom and doom. Not death metal by any means, but I mean, just it's a little darker. This is more uplifting, and what I've really heard from a lot of people, as much as my opinion doesn't really count because I'm the guy who did it, but the other people say, "Wow, this is what's been missing. This is like 1980s stadium rock, and all the people are together, and it's this great song, and everybody's moving at the same time, and it gives you that communal, uplifting. Everything's going to be okay instead of, oh man, everything's going in the shitter." Kind of feel that a lot of bands are kind of stuck in because of the times. I think the record has a very uplifting feel to it. As far as songs, I I don't know. That's real tough, just because I go through it. I think one of the ones to me. Okay, I'll reshape your question a little bit. The one to me that will go unnoticed because of the other ones that I think is really something is Runaway, and I think great hook, big ass hook, no question, big hook. Um, but it gets kind of proggy there with all the different parts and the way we do it, and it's there's a lot of parts going on, but it flows. It's a flower the whole way. It's like 4 minutes. It doesn't kill you. But because of the other songs, I think that might go under the radar. Also, Silence Broken, to me is just an absolute sleeper song that once everybody gets through the record and they get to that, that's like the big uplifting song, the feel good hit of the summer, like some have said. But I don't know, they really stand on their own, man. They really do. I mean,
When I first got the LP, I must have played it 8 times in one day. I fucking loved it. I just like bang. This and Lalo and Your Album are my two favorite prog albums of the year. It's just like,
what's your favorite song? Told you,
God,
I told you. It's
all of
hard.
them, all of them.
But that's a good that's a good problem to have. We did really sit down and think, okay, 11 singles. Okay, let's not like do two singles and then say, okay, we can have a bunch of 7 minute songs. No, 11 songs, all can be singles. You never know who might discover something, and then it explodes.
I think At the Water's Edge is probably one of my favorite songs.
that one barely made the record. Not that.
Really?
Well, okay, here's the reason though. That was one of the first songs musically we had done. It was actually called Race the Machine. That was one that me and Viv had done early on, where Viv was playing guitar on his keyboards. It just got down to the end, and Ray had 10 songs done, and it was like time to turn in the record. And, we were hoping that he would get to it. And he did. Like at the very, 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 it happened real quick for him. And he did it. And it was, done, and it got on the record. But yeah, that's a great one. That live will be brutal. That will be absolutely, I think the whole record live will be brutal. And the way it was sequenced was like a live show. I'm not sure if we'd open up with Trial by Fire, because that seems to be the song that everybody like kind of gravitates to. We might have to move things around somehow. But the basic flow of the record is like it was done like a live concert.
Okay then, Mark. So we're talking about the new album. Like, say some of your favourite songs. So how successful has the two videos you released on YouTube been for you? What's the fan press and the press been saying about the album?
Well, the press has said nothing but great things. Done a lot of European press, a lot of the big, Rock Hard, Metal Hammer, Art Shock, all those kind of things. It seems like I got a lot of new best friends, which is great. They're giving it 8s and 9s, and the thing that I'm noticing about the press, they're getting it. They understand exactly what we're
Five
doing.
out of five from me.
Awesome.
You're
No
welcome.
five, no 5.5.
Well, I'll try.
It's funny though, because I did notice on some, I do an interview and the guy's like you, the same response, it's like totally into it. But then he gives us an 8.5 on his thing, and I'm thinking, okay, that's a little strange. But then I look on the page that he sends me, and there's all these major bands, and they're getting like 7 and 7.5. So I'm going, okay, they try to keep it down. They're not going to give, who's going to get a 10? Who's going to get a 10? Nobody. So
well,
it's
well,
kind of interesting.
well. Put it this way. I mean, when I got La Lou's album, I must have played that 25 times in the space of a week, and you're getting pretty close to that. So that does say something.
Okay. No, that's great. No, the videos are great. It's interesting. Metal Blade is not a company that goes out and buys views. It always cracks me up. They have new artists. Different labels have new artists come out. No one's ever heard of the artist. First video does 150,000 views. You're going, damn. It's going to be the next big hit record. Second video comes out and they have 350 views. Kind of scratching your head going, how does that happen? It's basically modern day payola. They're buying the views, whether it's bots or whatever the case may be. Nothing's changed in the record business. It's the same thing. It's just done a different way. It's very interesting how Trial by Fire is doing twice the numbers as the Machine Gunner, but Machine Gunner has 3 times as many comments that are good comments, and it's interesting. I've noticed Trial by Fire has kind of had a little bit of a life of its own, and people are sharing it like nobody's business. And that's the way it gets. There's only so many fans. There's only so many people that are dialed into this kind of stuff that will watch it. It's the whole thing of when they share with friends that might not be into this, and they're watching it, and then they send it to friends. So there's a lot of sharing going on. I think they're doing great for what they are. Stranded comes out with the album release August 12th. I think there's some kind of Spotify artist spotlight or something like that. And so Stranded's coming out, and after that, we're going to have Far Side of the Horizon. And after that, we're doing At the Water's Edge. And just think it's important to keep the videos rolling, no matter what it costs, because, let's face it, you tell me, you're on that side, the minute a band stops putting videos out and they're not on a major tour, they kind of disappear.
Yeah, but the only thing is, if you put a video up to every song, that's going to stop people buying the album because they've got
Well,
to go. There's that to it.
I mean, they're going to have to wait a few months before they get to that point. I mean, if someone really wants to download it that bad and they don't want to buy the album, I think it's more important that the music gets out there. They see the first couple of videos and okay, that's like kind of really cool. Okay, but if they don't hear anything more, like we talked about earlier, it's just going to stop. So you put the next one out. It's like, oh wow, that's really cool. Let me do. It's just it's like the free sampler. We got a thing coming out where we got a bunch of interviews, and your boy Steve's on there. Steve's on there too, with their quote. Like what they thought about the record. And the guy who did the video for us set it up where each song, plays for like 30 seconds, and he shows the artwork and the everything like that, and then the quotes here, and then it goes to the next one stuff. So it's very cool. It's a way to get people to listen to it. I think you really just have to put it in people's faces. I mean, come on, this day with piracy and shit that going on, you probably go to some Russian website, you could probably get the whole record right now. I mean, if you're really that desperate for it, and if someone's going to sit there and download everything off the internet, they weren't going to buy your record anyways. That's the real truth.
Yeah.
A music fan and a music lover, after, hearing all this and how it is a complete package and how we went the extra mile, if they're not going to buy it from that, they ain't going to ever buy it. So it's not a big deal.
So when we're going to see the band touring, then obviously, is it going to be next year now?
Yeah, unless something crazy happens. Again, live touring is so dedicated and dictated by your record. Let's face it. This record comes out and nobody buys it and it goes in the toilet. touring's going to be a little tough because no one's going to want to see the band. On the other hand, if it comes out and it's the greatest thing in the world, then everybody's going to want to see the bands, and they'll make ways. Promoters will make ways to be able to book the band because it's a business and it's money. It's like we're going to have something that's popular. We're planning for next year right now, just because of the backlog of bands out of 2021 are playing now. So, it's not like the old days where it's scheduled like Fate's Warning. Hey, the record comes out August 12th, August 25th, we're on the road. It's not like that anymore, because the way COVID backed everything up. So no, it's being taken care of. Promoters are being talked to, festivals are being talked to. I'm actually just rode Glenn again this morning at Prague Power. Those kind of gigs. Some of those big European magazines have their own festivals. They were totally into it. And so we're looking at that and just get it rolling. We're just looking to get it rolling.
I mean, the one thing I like about your drumming, Mark, is you mix rock with prog, but you also do reggae. You've got this lot of reggae in there, and it really gels well, especially on this album.
Well, I think it really comes down to, I'm a drummer first, and then a rock drummer, and a prog drummer, and a whatever you want to call it, kind of second, third, and fourth. Whether it's your song, my song, or the Kid Down the Block song, I approach it the same way. It's like, it's music. Okay, let me listen to this. Let me see how it moves me and where I'm going. When you get to my age and you put in the hours of playing and studying, and I studied with a couple Afro-Cuban guys because I wanted to kind of cop that shit and like really, you can't just play. I'm not one of those guys who just plays. Everything is kind of learned, everything is studied, everything is practiced. I've always loved that kind of sound. Go listen to Dove, man. It's all over Dove from Slaviour. It's like, it just fits, it fits. I know a lot of other guys would just play straight rock beats possibly, or try to get cute and funny. But I just look at it as sound sources, grooves, feel, it fits perfectly. The whole beginning to Stranded, where it's played on an electronic drum kit, it's just a certain sound when I was screwing around one day on the electronic kit. It's actually a marching band, marching bands like at football games. That's what Yamaha calls it. It's their marching band sounds. And I just used those sounds and it worked out great. And it sounds like $1 million. I mean, the thing I think that you're driving at without really driving there is we have a very unique sound. And it's because of each guy brings a different element into it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not like 5 dudes that grew up on Rainbow at the same time. But what do you think the band's going to sound like? It's going to sound like Rainbow a little bit. Like I said, I'm much older than a lot of these guys. Some guys have more experience. Some guys have less experience. It's just kind of putting it all together. And I think that's where the real magic is. I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you or not, but when it came to vocals, I gave the song to Ray and I said, hey, man, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. He sang verses where I thought there was going to be choruses. He sang choruses where I thought there was going to be verses. That is the beauty of the record. It's not my thought of where things should be. My vision is the drums and the song as a whole. Now, all the other guys need to fill in the gaps with their vision of what they think. And that's how you get that record. That's exactly how it came about. Do whatever you want.
Basically like a jigsaw, putting all the pieces together.
But it's a jigsaw that the guys have a saw where they can cut off what they want when they want and put it in this way. Hey man, I don't want that. I'm gonna do this here. And there was so much going on that I would write something, Viv would write it, he would send it back. I'd hear what he did, and I go, "Ooh, I got an idea," and then we go from there. And then you give it to Jupe, and he'd come up with a different idea. Go, "Oh, if you're going to go like that right here, well, then I'm going to change my part to go with that." So there was a lot of that, and that's how the songs got formed.
So, do you have anything to say to the people watching this on YouTube? I'd like to thank you for the interview. It's been a very interesting talk about what we've gone through and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I had a very clear idea of what I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure people understood it. And no, the logo is not a swastika, just in case anybody's asking. No, just we're ready to go. And, I think we have a very, very unique, different sounding record. And I think everything that went along with the artwork, that was very much a conscious decision to go that way. And hopefully we'll see everybody on tour very soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Matt. Be safe. Thank you very much.
Good. I appreciate it, man.